Hey guys, Ed from Paranormal Inc. Ohio here, back at it again with another podcast episode. Tonight's podcast episode is going to be on the Mothman. So, West Virginia has had its fair share of strange and often inexplicable events, such as the visitation of the Flatwoods Monster, the Injured Cold, but perhaps the strangest yet is the arrival of the creature known as the Mothman, which changed the sleepy little town of Point Pleasant forever when it swooped in one cold autumn night in 1966. Today, Mothman is one of the most well-known cryptids in the world, made famous partly by John Keel's book, later acquitted to the film The Mothman Prophecies. Mothman is also hunted in Mountain Monsters on the Destination America. The first recorded Mothman sighting took place on November 12, 1966, near Clendon, West Virginia. 5 men were in a cemetery preparing a grave for burial when they saw something they couldn't explain. Lifting off from the nearby trees was a brown winged creature. The man held to the fact that what lifted off beyond the trees was no bird. It was a humanoid figure. The creature was sighted in many places across West Virginia and the surrounding states, but the largest number of sightings happened near the old West Virginia Ordnance Works, an area now known by locals as the TNT area. West Virginia Ordnance Works is an abandoned munitions depot to the north of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, that dates back to World War II. The facility during its operation manufactured ammunition and dynamite. The surrounding area is mostly forest, dotted with numerous grassy clearings and thick concrete domes, called igloos, that were used to store barrels of gunpowder. The area is also riddled with abandoned tunnels, most of which have collapsed, been sealed off, or become flooded with a wildlife water. A wildlife sanctuary, McClintock Wildlife Management, now encompasses the area. In 1979, fishermen in the TNT area reported that chemicals had been left to seep into the ponds, causing it to be labeled an environmental disaster. By 1983, the TNT area was among the country's most polluted sites. It was there in the TNT area on the cold night of November 15, 1966, 3 days after the first sighting took place, that 2 young couples would encounter this bizarre creature. Roger and Linda Scarberry were driving in Roger's black 57 Chevy Bel Air with Steve and Mary Mallet through the area around midnight, when Linda noticed, unbelievably, 2 large glowing red eyes in the darkness beside the old North Pole plant, and screamed. They soon learned that these eyes belonged to something that looked frankly human. About 7 feet tall with wings folded against its back, Roger stalled on the road for a minute, inspecting the strange creature. The 4 realized immediately that their spectacle was no ordinary bird. The true horror began, however, when the creature spread its wings and pursued them down Highway 62 to the Point Pleasant city limits at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. The 4 arrived in town startled and confused, and with no sign of the mysterious bird that had chased them. Roger parked his car at the edge of town, and they discussed their encounter, eventually deciding that what they saw was nothing more than an aberrant bird. And in an attempt to face their fears, they again drove towards the TNT area. It wasn't long before they saw the creature again, apparently waiting on them beside Route 62. The couples now realized that their stalker was no bird, but in an instant that the car's headlights landed on the creature, it lifted vertically into the air with tremendous speed and disappeared above the tree line. This time when they arrived in town, they went to the Mason County Courthouse and told their story to Sheriff George Johnson and Deputy Miller Halstead. 2 hours later, the city police began investigating the area, only to return empty-handed. The next day, a press conference was held, and the local press began printing on the story, causing others to come forward with previous and future sightings. This was the major event that started it all. In the November 16th issue of the Point Pleasant Register, the strange encounter would be brought to the public eye with the headline, "Couple Sees Man-Sized Bird, Creature," or something. The strange encounter in the TNT area was a harrowing experience for everyone involved. And on the morning of November 16, 1966, Linda Scarberry was rushed to the hospital by her father after experiencing a nervous breakdown. On the phenomenon, Roger Scarberry stated, "I'm a hard guy to scare, but last night I was for getting out of there as quick as possible." This creature would be seen throughout the next 13 months in Point Pleasant, and it was estimated that there were over 100 sightings during this time. Although these are unconfirmed reports, an actual number of confirmed sightings may be quite a bit lower. Mothman witnesses were also harassed by the Men in Black, who wanted them not to speak about the creature. The strange sightings all seem to culminate in a collapse of the Silver Bridge on December 15, 1967. Many similar cryptids and creatures have been seen worldwide. The sightings are similar to Mothman in many ways, including the fact that most of them seem to be heralds of impending disasters. Some of the places Mothman or its fellows have visited, including a mine in Freiburg, Germany, where a Mothman-like creature scared miners away shortly before it collapsed. Another notable visit was the nuclear plant at Chernobyl, where a creature haunted the facilities for a while before the famous nuclear meltdown. There were also 2 Mothman pictures taken in New York on 9/11, and multiple sightings before the Minnesota bridge collapse. Some believe that the Mothman tries to warn people about disasters about to happen, such as the Freiburg and Chernobyl sightings listed above. However, since there only seems to be one Mothman instead of a bunch of his kind, and since he seems rather paranormal, these sightings are not of much interest to cryptozoologists, who want to discover new kinds of creatures. The description of the Mothman goes as described. Mothman is described as a bipedal winged humanoid. Despite his name, which was given to him by newspapers, he is no way moth-like, and has an appearance more like than a large humanoid owl. His coloration varies from black, gray, to even brown. Although it is usually the darker shades, he is often reported to be about 7 feet tall, with a wingspan of about 10 to 15 feet or more, plus the ability to fly over 100 miles per hour. Sometimes he's described as not having a head, with the 2 huge red eyes set in the chest. These eyes are reported to be glowing, or at least reflective. The details of his face and his feet have never been aquatically described. One witness who saw the face clearly could only say that the details were horrible and monstrous. She had terrible nightmares and nearly suffered a nervous breakdown. Anyone who gets too close of a look at the Mothman seems to suffer from an extreme fear and psychological distress, sometimes lasting for months or even years. In particular, people say that a sense of pure evil overcomes them when they see Mothman's eyes. He can fold his wings and walk with a weird shuffle that many witnesses compare to a penguin. When he flies, he unfolds his wings and shoots straight up with great speed, then levels out to go wherever he wants to go. He is rarely observed flapping his wings except for on takeoff. Witnesses also described his flight pattern as straight up, like a helicopter. He can fly much faster than any bird should be able to fly, as measured by those victims who suffered from what seems to be Mothman's favorite activity, chasing cars. He'll fly in front of them and even sometimes hit at the roof. There is yet to be any credible physical or photographic evidence to truly support the existence of the Mothman, but there are a few photos that have been mistaken for Mothman, such as a photo of a bridge taken in 2003, which turned out to just be a piece of metal tilting and falling off. There have also been some photoshopped images, mostly done for art purposes and not to fool. Mothman sightings have been associated with at least 2 other cryptids, gigantic thunderbirds with gray bodies and red heads that were sighted in the same area at the same time by a few witnesses, and the Owlman, which is a similar creature with wings and red eyes, sighted in Cornwall, England in 1976. Sheriff George Johnson, who the original witnesses contacted, believed the Mothman may have been a large heron. Wildlife biologist Dr. Robert L. Smith at West Virginia University thought that Mothman was a sandhill crane, which the newspapers then reported on, but the witnesses completely disagreed with them. Skeptic Joe Nickel posited owls as an explanation because of their eye shine and their silhouette. Resembling the headless Mothman, most modern skeptics seem to agree with Joe Nickel, but the sightings might just be too extraordinary to attribute them to such animals. Two legends from Shawnee lore mention creatures closely resembling Mothman called Missinagwa and Wapi. In the legend of Missinagwa, the description of Mothman is indeed similar to Bigfoot by a ceremonial dress used during the bread dance. The Wapi legend is also similar in that it's part of a Shawnee lore in that a family of Native Americans chose to become White Hawks, living in the forest near Point Pleasant. Some believe the Mothman may be an angel or demon, or the product of a blood curse placed upon the town by Chief Cornstalk, who was murdered along with his son in the area. Similarly, the curse theory is one very attached to the collapse of the Silver Bridge. The more likely assumptions, however, like a normal barn owl, have been proposed due to the fact that in the original sighting, what the witnesses seem to describe is more in line with an illusion during driving, and other sightings could be misidentifications and cause for attention. A speculative, unorganized predecessor has also been a claim made by certain people. However, it remains normal, fun, and speculative zoology. There's something called the Mothman Festival. The Mothman Festival is an annual commemoration of the visit of the cryptid known as the Mothman. It started in 2002 and is held on the third weekend of every September in downtown Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It's located next to the Mothman Museum and the Mothman statue. The festival features a wide variety of vendors, guest speakers, live music, food, and events for all ages. People from all over the world come to experience the unique atmosphere and learn more about the Mothman. Mothman was featured in many things, video games, movies. There's been books about the Mothman. Many have claimed to see the Mothman, and every time they see the Mothman, something bad happens afterwards. So that's the legend goes of the Mothman. Now, my question is, do you believe in the Mothman? Could this be real? Could this be something true, in fact, plaguing the town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia? Or could it just be a hoax? Something that was made up years ago, and as the years went on, it just got crazier and crazier. I'll leave that up to you to decide. But that was tonight's podcast episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the Mothman. I'm on a cryptid kick right now, so we are going to do lots of cryptids for the podcast. I will break off every once in a while and do another paranormal story. I don't want to burn you guys out on the same thing over and over every time the podcast comes out. So just keep your eyes open for that. And from there, I would, you guys can go to paranormalincohio.com, which will take you to the main business page. There you can see some old ghost hunts and ghost stories. You can also check out our crystals and the powers they hold, our sage bundles for everything cleansing, necklaces, bracelets, and pins that go along with the crystals. There you can go to Paranormal Inc. Ohio group as our group page on Facebook. There we talk about all things paranormal. You guys give me ideas of things you want to hear. I do the research and I make a live out of it. Of course, you can go from there. You can go to TikTok and YouTube under Paranormal Inc. Ohio. There you can see some ghost stories, some other things paranormal. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. I go live on Facebook, and every Friday night at 10 p.m. is the Fear Friday Live, which is a bigger, kind of more in-depth live. And then every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, we have the podcast. And the podcasts are available on every type of podcast venue out there that you can think of. Or you can just look up Paranormal Inc. Ohio podcast on your web browser and it will take you straight to it. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. I really want to thank each and every one of you for coming out and listening. I love you all very much. And I will not see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.